But I've found recently the movement between being more in the country and then going back to the city. I usually pack a large backpack. It's the first time I brought a guitar and stuff. The difference, the distinction between the tranquility and peace you definitely experience more of in the country than the city, and also, yes, whether it can be understood or expressed in such a short time, this feeling of ever-increasing amounts of what's been more recently termed electro-smog in cities. I've been finding more and more I don't like cities. Of course, that's my own personal experience. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, because I'm basing it off my personal experience. So you'd have to have your own experience to make your own decisions from. So I'm definitely feeling the urge to just somehow move to the country or live in the country more. However, at the moment, just going between one and the other is definitely helping to regain more balance. And I've definitely felt, again, aspects of healing that seem to only be available in nature. So, feeling pretty stressed, and then the stress causing, in my view, an amplification of what I already, inflammation from my healing process. As soon as I come to the nature, I find that dissipates itself just by going for a walk in nature. Open fires also I've found really helpful, and lots of natural plant-based medicine too, including all the different oils and all the rest of it. And I've been working with that dragon's. So this is this dragon's blood thing. I don't know if anybody saw that comment, but it's like really quite interesting colour. So that's a new thing I've been using as a medicine on my face to help with my scars, my remaining scars, and whatever levels of trauma intermeshed remaining in my skull, face, neck, jaw, shoulders. Yeah. So that's been really lovely to have a new form of medicine to work with. And so perhaps this is why I felt more comfortable and relaxed enough to share such a relaxing, hopefully relaxing tune with everybody during these particularly hard to come to terms with points of human history, with incredibly opposing views once again. And much evidence to contradict, and data to be misunderstood, but used to make incredibly vast, all-encompassing decisions for everybody, even though ultimately how it's worded is just advice. But it's advice that we must take, which is kind of self-contradictory. And I'm not an expert in the English language, but I'm pretty sure advice is something you can choose to take or not. And since everything hasn't been mandatory and it's based off of advice, there's many places you can get advice from, generally speaking, it's good practice to get a second opinion, and that's generally what I do. So I've made my decisions based off of the information I've found out, and I'm now living my life based off of that, based off of previous decisions over the last couple of years, and that's also related to essentially medical protocols that me and my mum have had in place for decades. You know, if you have symptoms of something, you know, don't be near other people, just purely out of politeness. Whether that's, you know, arguable of whether it's actually a contagion or not is a secondary matter. You know, if you're ill, you know, focus on getting better. Don't you know, potentially share it with others. You know, particularly for my mum though, that's something I've always done, is not gone anywhere near her if I was slightly ill. But for me, in my understanding of illness, for you to be ill, you have to have symptoms, and that's how I've lived my life. And I'm still here, and I've had all kinds of illnesses. I'm pretty sure my understanding, you're ill if you have symptoms. Apparently that science has now changed now though, apparently. However, from what I've understood myself, the view that you can be, whatever terminology they use, I think they've used all kinds of terminology, that seems to be now hearsay, really. Pretty much. Just something maybe people have heard on the telly, and all kinds of scary data is being used to make them afraid. And there's loads of other people that have the same data and more data, which has helped people to feel more calmer and less afraid. So then that's down to interpretation of data. So, yeah. There's all kinds of information out there, and lots of it has not been acknowledged, and yet it's entirely official. So that's again more self-contradictory information for people in positions of power, and yeah, I made a support page recently for everybody, including myself, for everybody I know who's not sick and hasn't been really sick. Maybe they've had symptoms and got better at home. Maybe they've decided to have 1 jab or 2 jabs. However, they're not sick. They don't have symptoms. Although most of the time, those jabs have given them temporary symptoms, but that's how that jab stuff works. It's similar if you get the symptoms yourself and then you treat it. It's an immune response that our bodies learn from. One is, you know, through a jab, and the other one is actually through your own internal immune system. So that's different paths to understand things. So yeah, that's there. Support for people. There's all different information on there, plus some of my own personal opinions, and obviously, you know, you have to understand, like on these online things, what does it usually say? It's what's currently on your mind. So that's why I share stuff, because it's on my mind. A lot of the time I provide links to verifiable data sources where either I've got the graphics from or I've created the graphics based off of, or I've commented things which are on my mind, which is the whole point of sharing stuff. That's pretty much me, really. That's my experience of life. really wish there was a bit more of a debate going on, since it seems like, well, like I said earlier, seems a bit more back to sort of communist era sort of reality viewpoints, and I'm not very comfortable with that. And you know, there's a very big distinction between communism and communal living, because one of them ends up in very, very powerful hands, and the other one is about small groups of people learning to live together peacefully. And like they say, you know, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, yeah, definitely tough times, and definitely got to go back to the heart as much as possible in these challenging times. So I hope maybe you enjoyed my calm song, and the whispering pond. I feel that maybe that will develop maybe into a proper recorded piece maybe at some point, or maybe not. Maybe it's meant to be a spontaneous song. That's how it was created originally. Who am I to decide the song's evolution? I'll have to listen to my guitar and see what it has to say about that. Great. Thank you very much to anybody who's actually still listening and is open to having debates and sitting in circles listening to different viewpoints without being presumption or prejudging. However, coming to an actual decision that is going to be potentially possible for everybody requires an actual, truly all-encompassing, correctly understood, heart-centered, you could say judgment, but it's really a decision-making process, and that would require all of the data to be actually included. And if you're not including natural immunity, then you're not including all the data. Because what happens if society falls apart? Have you ever considered that aspect? So if society was to fall apart and there was no more access to vaccines at some later date, how would we treat everything? Yeah? Would there be any, you know, backup plan for that potential? You know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, in the higher echelons of power, you're meant to have the main plan and backup plans. So, you know, if some future date fabric of society properly falls apart and everybody is entirely basing everything on vaccines and natural immunity and natural medicine don't exist, what happens then? If everybody is entirely addicted to and basing everything off of vaccines. I'll leave you with that thought to end the video. Obviously, if society was to fall apart, most people would return to nature, because in nature you can grow food and you've got the elements to work with. However, in cities, I wouldn't want to live in a city if the fabric of society was to fall apart. So there you go. These are some interesting points to contemplate when you're making vastly blanket decision-making process across the entire planet over various countries, regions and sections of society who all don't live exactly the same kind of lives. Kind of need to take everything into consideration. So yeah, maybe I'll talk about that again more in some other video. I don't know. of course, let me know if you've made it all the way through this video. If you've got any views you'd like to share, feel free to share them. Other than that, take care everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Maybe I'll make some more music. But I've got loads of work to get on with, so better get on with lots of work and continue my healing process. Great. Lots of love and blessings. See you again soon.